And Brian is here.
World's blowing up today. I'm here. I'll be right back. Can you give me 30 seconds?
Yeah. Brian Romes, did we have any public comment? Oh. So for everyone's benefit, we are now live. I assume that means on YouTube. Is that how it works?
Brian, you're muted.
Brian Romes is muted.
Yes,
That
we
is
are
correct.
live on YouTube. Thank you.
Okay.
And welcome, everyone.
We'll wait for Cal to return. But of course, that means we won't be able to start exactly at 6 o'clock, which defeats the record. So do we change the
Wouldn't
clock?
be the first time.
Yeah, I know. Do we change the clocks this weekend?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's already dark at 6. It doesn't seem like, seems like this is the first time we've been pitch dark at.
Oh, good. Cal is here. So are we ready to start? All right.
Yes.
I will
Ready.
call to order the regular board meeting of the Park District of Highland Park on Tuesday, October 27, 2020 at 6:01 p.m. Roxanne, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Bernstein.
Here.
Commissioner Grossberg.
Here.
Commissioner Flores-Weiskopf.
Here.
Vice President Kaplan.
Here.
President Ruttenberg.
I am here. Thank you all for attending. Are there any additions to the agenda from any commissioners or from our executive director?
No.
None. Brian Romes, has anyone from the public submitted any email to be read aloud for public comment?
No.
Thank you. We'll move then to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Roxanne, please call the roll.
Commissioner Bernstein.
Aye.
Commissioner Grossberg.
Yes.
Commissioner Flores-Weiskopf.
Aye.
Vice President Kaplan.
Yes.
President Ruttenberg.
Yes, also the motion is carried. We'll move on to the treasurer's report. Director Peters.
Okay, good evening, everyone. First, we'll start by looking at the different funds of the district, our overall look at how things look at September 30th. The general corporate fund, overall, the general fund is tracking to the original budget.
Wait, it hasn't loaded yet.
Oh, you know what? We usually don't show this.
Oh, I thought you were going to. I'm sorry.
Am I supposed to have your screen on mine, Marilyn?
We have the agenda for right now, and then in a moment, we're going to go to our updated financial forecast. Okay.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Okay. All right. So general corporate, overall, the general fund is tracking to original budget due to reduced payroll, reduced expenses due to closing with COVID-19, and timing difference in health insurance. In the special recreation fund, we can see that budgeted tax receipts are trending favorably due to timing difference, and we anticipate that that variance should diminish. It's also important to note that in contractual services, the payment for the NSSRA building was budgeted for June, but is not anticipated to take place until December or early 2021. In the recreation fund, we're showing an unfavorable variance from budget due to closure and reduced activities related to COVID-19. In the debt service fund, we can see that there as well, budgeted tax receipts are trending favorably due to timing difference. We anticipate that variance will diminish, and that money in the debt service fund will be used in December when making our debt payments. And then finally, capital projects is significantly under budget as projects have been delayed or eliminated due to COVID-19. Does anyone have any questions on that?
Hearing none, move on.
Okay. All right. Does everyone see the updated financial forecast screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And we're going to put that into presentation mode. Do you see my cursor on the screen? Or maybe not.
Or maybe not.
Or maybe not. Do you
Maybe
see
not.
the special disclaimer or no?
Yes. Yes.
We
Well,
still,
yeah, it's like a split screen.
Oh, you have a split screen. Okay.
we are not seeing presentation mode.
You're not seeing the presentation. Okay, hold on. Golly.
So much for my comment at the beginning.
I know, right? Exactly.
Spoke too soon.
Okay, hold on. Let me move that over there. Oh my. Okay. We'll try this again. I hear someone playing piano in the background.
Oh, I better turn my music off.
It's just relaxing background music as we get the presentation up.
Right, exactly. Give me just
I work to jazz now.
Oh gosh.
Hey,
Okay.
Brian, are you in an elevator?
Yes.
Share screen. We're going to go with this one. Okay. All right. Now do we see updated financial forecasts with my cursor?
Beautiful.
Okay, great. All right. So moving right along. Sorry about that. So we should now see the special disclaimer that we're at September 30th, 2020. All right. So we're going to look at our cash flow projections that we look at every month. And we can see that we have our original budgeted amount of roughly $12 million for the end of this year. And then currently our month end projected cash on hand is trending at just under $11 million. So, not too bad given the effects of the COVID. And then most importantly, we want to keep in line with the board policy of 25% reserve, which is about $4.7 million for 2020. So we can see that we are definitely tracking well above that amount for year end. All right, now we have our operations screen, and as we note each month, we have our green solid line, which is our original budgeted amount of revenue and operations of $21.7 million. And then our red solid line was our budgeted expenses at over $18 million. And so originally we had budgeted a surplus of roughly $3 million. Then when COVID hit, we redid our projections, which is this dotted green line of revenues, and our projections are at 15.5 million. And then we also re-projected our expenses. And again, this is worst case scenario on this dotted red line, with our expenses coming in at roughly $13.6 million, with a new anticipated net surplus of about $1.8 million. So the decrease from the original budgeted surplus to the projected surplus is about $1.2 million. Then we went back, and on the dashed green line, we plotted what our actual revenues are coming in at, which is roughly $13.3 million. So we are trending about $1 million higher than our projections at the end of September as far as revenues are concerned. And then we also plotted again with the red dashed line our actual expenses versus projected expenses to a savings of about $500,000 at the end of September. So our overall variance of actual versus projections comes in at a surplus of roughly $1.5 million. When we look at the recreation fund, we have tracked things the same way. Again, we have the solid green line showing what our original budgeted revenues were of $10.5 million. And then we also plotted our budgeted expenses on the solid red line at about $12.9 million for an overall anticipated deficit of about $2.4 million. Then when COVID came, we redid our projections. We have our dotted green line for our worst case scenario revenues of about 5.08 million. And then we also redid our projected expenses on the dotted red line with an $8.81 million. So that would give us a deficit of about $3.7 million versus the original budgeted deficit of $2.4 million to give us an increased deficit of about $1.3 million. And then we went back and we dropped in our actual revenues on the dashed green line at about 4.94 million versus the 4.13 projection. So that's about $818,000 surplus versus what the projection was. And then we dropped in our actual expenses, which are the dashed line, which are 6.53 million versus the projection of 6.49 million. So really, pretty much spot on there. So the net difference between actual and projections is a surplus of $777,000. Next, we will look at payroll. And payroll, if you recall, the budgeted payroll is a solid green line of about $10 million. And then with COVID, we came up with new projections on the blue line of about $7.5 million, or a savings between the original budget and the projection of about $2.5 million. Then on the yellow line, we went back and dropped in what our actual payroll numbers are. We can see in July that actual payroll did start trending a little bit higher than what our projections were. At the end of September, we're showing about $5.5 million of actual payroll versus projections of about $5.4 million, for a net difference of an overage of about $132,000. We want to keep in mind that while we are over projections by $132,000 in payroll, we don't feel that it would be possible to be at the $777,000 surplus in the recreation fund, nor the $1.5 million in the operating funds without having bought on some extra payroll. And we know that as time went by with the COVID and we figured out, the programs and services, the things people were wanting to do and happy to engage in, we certainly took advantage of that, and we added, more of those services and programs that people wanted. But in order to do that, we definitely needed to add some more salary to get us to those levels of offerings. We can also look down below where we have put in all the payrolls. You can see in March, we were, at a heightened payroll. And then once we put in our furloughs, the hiring freezes, the wage freezes, you can see that each payroll came down until we got till June, when, things really started to pick back up again, being in phase 4 and offering more programming. So then we did have this increase in payroll. Then after July, when some of those services started to subside a bit, you can see that payroll has started to come back down. Oh, whoops, sorry about that. To the end of September, where we're at $288,000 for our most recent payroll there. So as far as a summary of where we've been, where we are, and where we're going, we're going to go back and look at our operating chart. We can see at the beginning of the year, as far as revenues, we were really spot on with what our original budget was. And we can also see that our expenses were trending less than what we had budgeted them for. And then we can see when the COVID hit in March, that our revenues, definitely fell off where the budget was supposed to be. We can also see the decline in expenses with, everything being closed down. We can also see then in May, when, things were being able to start being reopened, or we were able to start offering some programming services and just really kind of got our act together and understanding what our new COVID world was. Our revenues really took off versus what our projections were, and our expenses started coming in less than what our projections were, and things have really looked good. I mean, obviously to the tune of $1.5 million through the end of September, which brings us over here on our graph. And then we have these last 3 quarters of the year. So now we are faced with the pandemic maybe coming back a little bit stronger than what was originally anticipated, and we are not quite sure, especially what these last 2 months of the year are going to hold for us. We did project pretty flat revenue over these last 2 months of the year, and expenses were pretty much on a straight line there. So, you know, we hope that even if we do regress back to a different tier, or even to a different phase, that we have, you know, figured out really how to handle what we can offer and how to do it in an efficient way. And that if we do revert back to a phase or a lesser tier, that we, you know, will still be okay, probably to obviously a lesser amount of revenues, but that we'll be able to hold our own. And that's what I have for you this evening. Does anyone have any questions?
Well, let's start with Cal. Do you have any questions on this?
No, I do not. I appreciate the thorough and easy to understand presentation. It's taken us some time to get to this, and you know, at the end, after all the questions, if you want to give us the paragraph, or if you already gave us the paragraph summation, I think you already gave it to us. So I think, but I you know, we're doing the best we can under the situation. So I appreciate all your hard work.
Terry?
Just ditto, you know, we've seen these in finance, and they're so easy for me. Even a music teacher can understand them. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
Lori?
I agree. Even a music teacher can understand them. No, really, they are easy to read. Thank you for that. We non-finance people appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Brian Kaplan?
Well, since I took Finance for Dummies 101, I get it. Thank you very much. Nice job.
Good. Great, thanks.
I echo those comments. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
I'm going to stop sharing.
And I assume that we go to unfinished business now.
Now my whole screen is burning.
Thank you. Unfinished business, Rosewood Beach. And I have a question for Jeff. You're muted, Jeff.
Sorry about that.
What is the household rule about the beard?
Well, it's allowed.
Is it your baseball playoff beard?
It was my COVID beard, but since it hasn't ended, you know, the beard hasn't ended.
Got it. All right, go ahead, Jeff.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to give just a little bit of a summary of the Rosewood Beach Interpretive Cove protection options. And the goal of this presentation this evening is that we'll be asking the board for approval of one of these options so that we can move forward with construction documents, with the goal of, if the board chooses to move forward with an option, the goal of having construction completed by Memorial Day of 2021. So at the October 13th board meeting, Margaret Boschek from Smith Group had reviewed several protection options for the interpretive cove. The goal of these is to provide protection from beach erosion for both the interpretive center and the parking lot. A short-term, a medium-term, and a long-term option were all discussed. And it was agreed that the short-term option was neither necessary nor feasible at this time. As for the mid and long-term options, just a reminder, the Overlook Chase Lounge area of the boardwalk would need to be removed for either of those options. And another request from the board was for staff to look into the price to remove that area as kind of a standalone project. So as I said tonight, I'll be reviewing all of those options and making a recommendation on where staff feel we should move forward. So first, just a map of the site here, a couple of reminders. So this is the Interpretive Center building, and there is some protection in front of the building. That red line indicates there's a sheet pile wall in front of that building. And then here, this circle is showing the infamous Chase Lounge Overlook area that we have been discussing. So as far as the Chase Lounge area, like I said, for all of these options, it would need to be removed. And when we talk about removing, what exactly does that mean? So this photo was taken standing on the boardwalk with the parking lot to our left. And you'll see the area that's highlighted in red, that's the portion of the Chase Lounge that would come out. So this bench on the left is part of this boardwalk and would remain. However, there's a bench here and the Chase Lounge back there. So removal of this, actually it includes removing some electric because there's an underlight in this bench and also in the other bench. And this photo is back from 2018. One of the earlier efforts we did was place some large armor stone in front of this area when we started to experience erosion. I'm just sharing this to also talk about when we remove this area, this armor stone should be removed as well. Otherwise, it may eventually just become exposed on the beach. And as part of removal of this armor stone would be relocated to the ravine just to the south of this, along the edge of the ravine. And lastly, in this picture, this is a picture taken from today. You can see the current status of this area. There's also these wooden piles that support the boardwalk area. There are 15 of them total. All of those would be removed as part of this. They go about 8 foot in the ground. Our goal is to remove them completely if possible. So I have here in the top left corner of the screen, you can see what we're calling option 1, which is simply the removal of this area. And that's estimated at $60,000. Now that does not include any protections for the parking lot. It's simply removal of this area. Now, the second option, this is one of the ones that Margaret had discussed at the previous board meeting, was what we were calling the midterm protection. And that's utilizing this trap bag technology. So once again, this red line represents the sheet pile wall that's in front of the Interpretive Center building. And then here's the Chase Lounge. And the trap bags would be placed along this whole section of yellow. Now, the ground would be excavated and they would be buried. You'll see in the next drawing here that you would not see them unless we had significant erosion and they were exposed. So in front of the Interpretive Center building, they're providing additional protection. And then they continue to provide protection here and all the way through to the ravine in front of the boardwalk here and protecting the parking lot. So you can see in this cross section, this is the boardwalk right in front of the parking lot. And then the trap bags would be placed underground here. And this indicates the sand, and it's graded here. Now, once again, a reminder, this option is estimated at $300,000. And there's an anticipated life expectancy of 15 years. And we feel that that's a very conservative. Now, this is somewhat of a newer technology and something that we have not done in this area much. And so it's a little bit of lack of certainty of how many years, but from our discussions with Smith Group, they are confident that it's a minimum of 15 years, but it could be much longer than that. And the final option that the board has seen is, once again, remove the Chase Lounge and Overlook area, but also it includes the construction of long-term protection. And that is extending the sheet pile wall along this boardwalk and then along in front of the parking lot all the way to the ravine. Then there would be armor stone that would go underground, just like the sheet pile wall would, in front of that area. So once again, this is the boardwalk in front of the parking lot. Here would be the sheet pile wall that would be installed. And then this is the armor stone that would go out and extend. Dotted line is representing the level of the sand. And this approach estimated at $600,000 with a life expectancy of at least 50 years. So just a brief timeline on these projects. So tonight we are looking for approval from the board on if they choose to select one of these options, which option we should move forward with. And that would be moving forward, working with Smith Group to continue the permitting process, finalize construction documents, start to prepare documents for bidding. So then, and that process would occur in November through January. The goal would be to release the invitation for bid in February. We would receive our bids back and expect to return to the board in March, sharing the bid results and requesting approval of to enter into a construction contract. And then that would leave us with the months of April and May to conduct the construction. And as I said earlier, the goal would be to have the construction completed by Memorial Day. Now, this timeline is really more appropriate for the mid-term and the long-term options. If the board had chosen to go forward with option one, which was just removing the chase, that would require little to no construction documents and no permitting. So while we would still release a bid and come to the board for approval, the timeline could potentially move a lot quicker. So I just wanted to once again provide a very brief summary of the options and then open up for questions. So we had option one, which was the removal of the chase at 60,000. Option two, which was the trap bag solution, and it also included the chase removal, 30,000. And then there was option three, which was the long-term sheet pile option at 600,000. Now, staff have looked into all three options and feel that the most appropriate option would be option two, removal of the Chase Lounge overlook area and construction of the midterm protection. And that is the recommendation that staff is making to the board. Now I'd like to open it up for any questions.
Thank you. Let's start with Commissioner Bernstein. Oh, and I just want to, I'm sorry, before you do that, Cal, for interrupting. The chase removal is 60, so that the trap bag construction actual cost is approximately 240 then.
Yeah, you could look at it like that. Now, I will say, if the option one was done, you know, as a separate project, you have a mobilization cost for that. And so there's certainly a savings on having the chase removed as part of option 2 or 3, because you're not paying mobilization costs twice. So it would be cheaper to do it as part of option 2 or 3.
Okay, I'm sorry, Cal, for interrupting.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, with regard to the removal of the Chase Lounge in the Outlook area, is that area in danger of failing in any way?
No, we do not feel that it is. We feel that if the board chose not to move forward with installing any protections at this time, then the recommendation would be to actually leave the Chase Lounge here rather than incur mobilization costs on 2 separate projects. And to some degree, the Chase Lounge is providing some protection of the sand that's right under it.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Sure.
Terry?
Oh, sorry.
Is there, if we did leave the Chaise Lounge, would we leave the sandstone there too to just give it whatever extra heft?
Yeah, if we were not to remove the Chaise Lounge or do option 2 or 3, then we would leave it as is right now.
Okay, and then it is $60K just to remove that. Okay. Now, maybe I missed it, but I thought that when we talked about the trap bags, I didn't know that we were also putting it in front of the revetment, in front of the building. Maybe I just missed that. That's not new?
No, you are correct though. Whenever we discussed it at the last meeting, the focus was really around the parking lot area, but it's always been part of the plan. Essentially what it's doing is it's replacing the armor stone that's in the 3rd option. It's just providing a little more protection, and we've already experienced exposure of that area, and with it being just a perpendicular wall to the beach, the sand tends to erode a little quicker, so it's just added protection. If we're coming in and excavating that area, it would make sense to add it at that time. But I will say that that's also, if we move forward with the next step with option 2 or 3, that's something that in that process we would continue to work more with Smith Group on exactly what's needed where.
Okay, so do we know the cost of putting it there as opposed to just keeping it protecting the parking lot? Like, what is the extra cost? I understand that they'll be there doing it. And do we need it? I mean, in front of the interpretive center?
So I will go back to Smith Group and I will get the answers to both of those questions.
Okay,
Well, I don't have the technical response to that question, Terry, which I'm sure Jeff can get, but I do know that the way the revetment is installed in front of the interpretive center right now, it does protect it. Obviously, it was exposed last was it 2 years ago? But with having the extra protection in front of it, it obviously would not be exposed. And I think that there was concern that if we had not done the emergency sand replenishment, that water could have seeped in from around, because the revetment's only in front of it, it's not around it. And so this would offer further protection if that answers your question. I know it was definitely part of the recommended plan.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. Thank you, Brian. Once again, I'm not going to get the technical language correct, but the idea would be that vertical sheet pile wall simply wouldn't be sustainable over a long period of time if exposed, while the armor stone or the trap bags stacked up kind of in succession could be exposed to the lake for a long period of time.
okay. But again, so if we were like at the mid-level of our water rise, if we were just normal, would we be talking about this at all? If we replenish we replenish the sand, and then we just had normal storm surges and normal amount of erosion or whatever, would we even be worried about the revetment in front of the interpretive center?
So obviously with the high lake levels, that's what has us paying attention to this. I will say that when Rosewood was completed some years ago, there was discussion, and I think at one point, the potential plans to have revetment in that area. And in the end, it was chosen not to. So I guess the answer would be, you're correct, we wouldn't be talking about it. We're looking at it now because we've seen it highlighted a likely need for it due to the unforeseen circumstances of the extremely high lake levels and what the impacts it's having on the beach and particularly this cove.
I'm talking about not in front of the Chaise Lounge, but in front of the interpretive center.
Oh, I understand. It's hard to say. All I can say now is that when we reached out to the engineers and we've experienced this extreme erosion, it's a recommendation of theirs. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything else I can say about that, but I will certainly get a more of a technical explanation for it if you'd like.
Yeah, and I think it's safe to say two things. One, that obviously if we had not gotten to this level of the lake levels, we probably would not have been discussing any of this, but we did, and we still are. And the interesting part is, again, Margaret would obviously sound much more intelligent the way she refers to this, but when we talk about normal lake levels, I think what she had explained in one meeting was that really normal is changing. So even though she thinks lake levels are clearly going down, they're heading in the right direction. She believes what the average level used to be will probably change. So the new average lake level will be higher than it potentially used to be. Again, it's a theory, but I think adding this, being at the levels we have been at and not knowing the effects of potential, climate change or whatnot, I think the feeling is that this has now been exposed and become an essential component of long-term protection.
All right, I'm sorry to keep drilling down on this just a little bit, but I'm actually going to go back 6 months to the idea of a weir. I think if Margaret is thinking that there's just going to be a new normal, that we're never, not never, but we may never get back to that place where it's just where it was in 2015 or whatever, or that would be the very low end or whatever. I just wondered if she has changed her mind, because I thought that one of the reasons we didn't want to do that was when the lake waters go down a lot, that we wouldn't want to have this exposed rock out there, and that people would have to get out of their kayaks or whatever and walk around that. I mean, I'm just wondering if.
Well, no, I would say, so Brian's correct that, it's possible that there's going to be kind of a new normal. But with that said, it doesn't change the fact that the lake levels are very much cyclical. And so they will rise and fall over time and over years. It just may be different highs and different lows. And so with that said, that weir or whatever offshore structure is put in is static, and it needs to be installed for a certain lake level, whatever that might be. And at times it could get lower and higher. And I think so what her concern is, or just the reality about putting something like that in, it still would stand regardless of what the highs and lows are.
Okay.
Thank you. Lori?
Brian, you're muted if you're saying something.
I'm sorry. I was only going to say is just to add to that, those for two reasons, I think those options were eliminated. One, because the cost was significantly higher for the work to be done in the lake, but also the concept was not to fight Mother Nature in the lake and to more just protect our buildings, which we really can't move. We can only protect at this point.
Thank you. Lori?
Yeah, so my question is, if we are to leave the chaise there, is that a danger to residents? Is it going to be something they can't sit on? How are we going to block that off?
So as of now, there are some railings along the majority of it where you can't get to the actual seating. And what we've done in the past, in the spring and early summer, we can regrade some of the sand and place it in front and may be able to open it back up. But if we're not able to do that, it would stay in the condition it's in, where there's the railing that's blocking it off, and you would not be able to sit on it.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff, why don't you go back to the picture that shows that?
Yeah. Right there. So this is what it looks like right now. It's very possible that we could see more erosion. Like I said, there also is the off chance that we may be able to move more sand back in front of it for a period of time next season. But you can see here, we have this metal railing that stops people from getting to the edge and sitting on that area, because it is enough of a drop off that it wouldn't be safe for people to sit on there.
Okay. But if we put the sand, then they would just come around. They just wouldn't go from the top.
Well, I guess to clarify, what we did at the beginning of this season was we were able to regrade sand and put it in front of that area. And at that point, we were able to reopen it. It's difficult to say whether we would be able to do that. It just depends on how things fare over the winter. So I think it would be safe to assume that if we left it, it would remain pretty much in this state with it closed off like this.
Okay. And then the second option with the sand does that include bringing in sand, or it's sand we already have?
So when Margaret talked about this last week, a couple weeks ago, she talked about, so these bags are filled with sand, and she had suggested that we could use the sand on site to fill them. However, we're recommending bringing in sand to do that. So the cost would be bringing in additional sand, and then they would be buried. So the sand that's on site already would be put on top. So it would almost create more sand, because you would have these filled with new sand that would be displacing the current sand. But it doesn't include bringing in additional sand to nourish the beaches. That's not part of the scope at this time.
Okay. Those are my only questions.
All right, thank you. Brian Kaplan.
Yeah, I've got a couple. Jeff, I want to start with, if we do option 2.
We lost Brian, you're fading in and out.
All right, let's say we vote, we undertake option 2.
Okay.
What else can go wrong? I mean, we've got a property, and it's our jewel property. We've got 2 other beachfront properties that need money as well. And at some point in time, I mean, I don't know if this is the right time for this, but at some point in time, we have to stop socking money into Rosewood and look at our other beaches or waterfront properties, however you want to do it. I mean, it's 300,000 this year, 300,000 last year, new sand, new this. When is this going to end? Will this resolve all of our problems for the foreseeable future so that we can start focusing on other properties? And if not, you know, we've kind of tap danced around talking to the Army Corps of Engineers and people that designed this, and did they design it all right? But this is costing us a ton of money. And is this going to end it, or is this going to lead to more money going to this property down the road? I'll start with that, and then I'll keep going.
Okay. So it's certainly our hope that it would end the need for additional protections here. The idea, if you think back several months, is well, even a year back, we had done the emergency nourishment, which really has been successful. And I don't have them here, but I can show you pictures of what it looked like prior to the that which occurred at this time of year and now. But then from there, it was, as we talked about a moment ago, Smith Group had explored offshore options, which would help to retain the beach. And then they also had thrown out the back of the beach options, which are simply protecting the infrastructure so that we don't have to worry about the building or any of the buildings or the parking lot from being in danger. And so this option here would provide that protection. And so staff feel confident that if installed, we will have confidence that the parking lot and the boardwalk along there in the building will all be safe. I would say worst case scenario would be that we have relatively extreme erosion and the bags are exposed and you can simply see them, which wouldn't be a bad thing, but it would probably be the worst case scenario. And Brian, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Well, and then in which case we would have to replenish more sand again. Not to the extent that we did, but the good news is it would be protected, which would save us from potential and even greater expense, which would be if the parking lot started eroding. So that is the worst case.
I understand the necessity of this. I understand what it's going to do. I get it. But at some point in time, when are we going to stop having to spend money every year on this property? And I guess part of my question is, was this done right the first time? Is this just Mother Nature giving us a bad hand? Or is it a combination of maybe not being done right the first time around and Mother Nature? Or I'm trying to wrap my head around this. I listened to all these meetings. I know you need to, we put a lot of money into it. I know we made it one of the nicest lakefront properties on the North Shore, but it's going to be a really expensive lakefront property on the North Shore.
Understood. Once again, I'll underscore that the goal of this, when the board chose to move toward a revetment, is to put that protection in, to not fight Mother Nature, and to hopefully be done with additional work protecting the infrastructure there.
Yeah, and I would add that I think what we sort of resolved was that Army Corps used the information that they had at the time, and based on the high and low and average of the lake levels at that time, it was adequate. But we've exceeded record heights, and not to belabor the issue, but obviously all lakefront communities are suffering and have had to put additional investments far beyond what they had anticipated needing to do. And I know it's tougher for us because we did ours within the past 10 years, and you would think it would have lasted longer, but you know, I think we all share the frustration with the high lake levels.
No, I know. As I said, we have 2 other properties. We've got Park Avenue, we've got Moraine, that both need substantial amounts of work. And we've got to get to those properties sooner rather than later. If we have to pour $300,000 to $500,000 to $600,000 a year into Rosewood, we're never going to get to the other properties. And I'll get off my soapbox not saying we got to get to all of them. But that's all I got. Thanks,
All right.
Brian.
Well, I think those are good points, though, that you're asking. And I think the focus of this exercise for Rosewood is the protection of the parking lot and some additional protection for the building. This isn't going to affect the lake level coming and grabbing and scooping out sand that we might have to replace every year. But I think what I'm hearing is that this is highly recommended step to protect our significant investment in the building and the parking lot. I don't have any questions per se, just a little speech like that.
And I understand that, but it seems that every year we have to protect this investment, and we have other properties we're invested in. That's all I'm saying.
No, you're right. You're right. But hopefully this will alleviate the concern for the north end of the facility.
Okay, that's all I got. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Let me just go back and ask, does anyone on any of our commissioners have a follow-up question or comment they'd like to make? If none, is there a motion to approve construction documents for option 2, which includes removal of the Chaise Lounge, overlook area, and construction of midterm protection using trap bags?
Barney, can you
Yes,
hear
sir.
me?
Yes,
Oh.
Terry.
Oh, okay. I was talking, but I don't know. I wasn't muted, but you couldn't hear me.
No, we could not. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine. I just wanted to just second what Brian Kaplan was just saying. I just had a conversation with Brian Romes about this very issue, and I just wanted to say that I'm very concerned also the amount of money that is going on down there. I know this board in particular is very protective, as we should be, of Rosewood. It's our newest, it's our treasure, and things like that. But I also believe that we have to measure this against the 3 other properties we have. So, sorry, go ahead now.
No, well, that'll come up later in the conversation, as a matter of fact. So I think that was timely. So as I said, is there a motion to approve this?
And to note, I think it's clear, but just to make sure it is, the motion for approval is to move forward with the construction documents. It's not to actually do the project at this point.
Good point.
Okay, so I am not completely sold on this idea, and I appreciate the staff's recommendation. I really, really do. But why did the staff, why did you go this way? I just need to understand more. You know, Commissioner Kaplan brought up some good points. But that said, I do believe in spending the money because it's such a big investment and we knew that there'd be upkeep. So I guess I just want to understand more.
Sure. So the staff are recommending installing a protection. This is something we've been discussing.
Well, actually, let me ask you this, Jeff. I'm sorry. Why didn't you guys go with a third option? How about that? Why did you go with this?
Excellent question. Obviously, as been discussed tonight, the cost is a major factor. A significant amount of funds have been put into the site. So initially, that third option was what was proposed with Smith Group, but staff worked closely with them to try to find a more economical approach that everyone felt confident would provide that protection that we needed. And that's what we feel like we found in this second option.
So I think you're saying this is going to take our mind off the concerns for 15, maybe 20 years. And we don't have to wake up in the middle of the night hearing a raging storm and go, I wonder what's going on.
That's correct. We feel confident this is going to provide the protection and confidence we need in the interpretive code.
Okay. Lori, does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's very helpful. I guess I don't see then why we'd even consider the first option. It sounds like if we go with the first option, we might as well not do anything.
I think that's right. So we go back to, is there a motion to approve construction documents, emphasis on those construction documents for option 2? And that's, by the way, that's not $300,000.
Right, yeah, actually, thank you. I'll add we're already under contract with Smith Group for this work. It was just waiting to give them clarity on which approach to go with. And so what'll happen is we'll work with them now under the current contract to complete the construction documents, develop bid documents, and then there'll be a point where we'll release it for bid. We'll return back to the board with possible updates and then also with the bid results. And only then would we be asking to approve construction.
Okay, well, I make a motion.
Thank you. Is there a second? I'll second. The chair seconds the motion. Is there any?
Wait, I still have a question for Jeff after what he just said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeff, the cost to go from today to bringing it back to us for approval, can you ballpark that for me?
Outside of time.
Ballpark. Nothing I'm going to hold you to.
No, you know what, I apologize. I'd have to go back and look at we've already entered into a contract with Smith Group. I would have to look back at it to find out how much of that is not paid out, but there's no additional commitments that the district would be entering into. It's already a contract we're under, and the other would be staff time. And that would be it. There wouldn't be an additional cost beyond that to go as far as bidding this out, permitting it.
Oh, really?
So we're not asking for approval of it. Once again, the board had approved some time back a contract for Smith Group to create these construction documents. And we've taken a pause on it to talk about which approach we want to go with. And so this is where we're moving in that direction. And they'll simply be working under that contract to finalize these documents. Basically what's happening at this point is we're making a decision to go in a certain direction, and we really won't be able to turn and go into a different direction, or we would not be able to meet our deadline of getting it installed by Memorial Day.
So I would think that in that case, maybe we don't need a motion to approve the construction documents, but a consensus to proceed in this way. I think that may be what we're really asking now.
Well, it would be nice only to have, it'd be nice only have a vote just to make sure there's a majority who's comfortable moving this direction, a majority of the board. So, I mean, if it can be done by consensus, I guess, but this would just basically, again, approve the direction of what's already been approved, but clarifying.
Okay, there's a motion to approve moving forward in this direction with the Smith Group to develop the construction documents, choosing option 2 as the desired course of action. So why don't we just follow through? Should we take a vote on this now then, unless anyone objects?
You have a motion in a second, so you could take.
Yeah, correct. All right, so Roxanne, why don't you call the roll?
Commissioner Bernstein,
No.
Commissioner Grossberg,
No.
Commissioner Flores Weisskopf,
Yes.
Vice President Kaplan,
No.
President Rottenberg.
I vote yes. However, the motion to proceed in this direction has been defeated. At this point, we have no definitive plan for moving forward with the development of plans for the construction of the midterm protection. Is there a feeling that we should at least remove the CHAISE lounge, however, and the related boardwalk?
You know, I think there's no point in that. That's just, I wouldn't even bother with that. in my opinion.
I mean,
We're not-
I would,
we're not-
okay, sorry.
We're not significant, then I wouldn't, then I think it's wasting money. I wouldn't vote for that.
I think from my perspective, is at this point, I'm against it because we just don't know what additional costs might come up down the road. And I don't know if it's fully vetted enough, in my opinion, that I feel comfortable moving forward and that we don't get hit with another $300,000 to $500,000 item next year.
Bernie?
Yes, Cal, I was going to go and start with Cal.
And I'm
Okay.
sorry.
That's all right. I would just say that based on Margaret's testimony, and I'm using the word testimony because I got to just cross-examining her, but based on Margaret's testimony that the parking lot, there's not an imminent danger to any damage to the parking lot, that there is a significant amount of, I'm not going to use the word barrier, but a significant amount of stuff that's between the lake and the parking lot, that it's not under an imminent danger of failing. In addition, hearing Jeff state tonight that the structure, the Chaise Lounge structure provides additional protection. So even if there is an issue with regard to some type of storm, that Chaise Lounge does provide a level of protection for the parking lot. And number three, lake levels are slightly going down based on what Margaret testified to last time. And number four, the fact that there's nothing dangerous and nothing imminent failing, and the fact that we're in a pandemic right now and we're trying to conserve all of our resources, I think it's consistent for us just not to do anything, just monitor it, because even if we wanted to do anything, and even if the motion would have prevailed, this work would not have been done until next spring, which would not have protected us from any of these late fall, early winter storms. So I think that it provides at this point in the future, and if lake levels turn around and increase, maybe we may revisit this. But as long as lake levels trend down, and as long as the parking lot is not an imminent danger, and as long as we're in a pandemic or we're trying to conserve resources, I don't see any reason to do anything down there.
Terry?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was going to say. I thought at the beginning of the discussion, way back a month or two ago, I thought, Cal, did you bring up the idea of sandbags? I know we've gone through this, but as a temporary measure, can you just fill me in, Cal, about that?
Actually, I remember we asked Margaret about that, and she said that anything but these track bags would not be able to withstand the force of the lake. So if we put some sandbags down there, it would do nothing because they would just wash away.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, that's exactly where I am, what Cal was saying. And, just about that, it's not ready to fall right now. And unfortunately, we have limited resources and we can't spread them. We can't be everywhere. So
Okay.
that's where I am.
All right, that's fine. Lori? Do you have anything to?
Yeah, I understand the points that are made, but at the same time, while I value Margaret's opinion, it's the same thing as trusting the Army Corps. Now everyone's saying, well, should we have listened to the Army Corps? Now, is it going to be, well, should we listen to Margaret? And I just want to say for the record that to staff that I do appreciate and take into consideration your suggestions, your ideas. So, I would have been in favor for that. And I understand again why the other commissioners are reluctant. I just hope that this doesn't come back to bite us all, that we had the opportunity to protect this very valuable, we invested millions of dollars to just let it go because, we're afraid of spending money. There is definitely a time to spend and then not to spend. And I think you'll see that I'll be more vocal with other projects because I certainly don't want to go crazy spending, but some things are needed and some are absolutely not. So I think that will be very black and white moving forward.
Thank you, Lori. And obviously, time and storms will tell. Brian Kaplan?
I have no more to add to this conversation.
Okay.
Said my piece.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, thank you. We appreciate the work. And I just would like to do our best so that we don't have a season with the dangling chaise, to play on the political word from a few years ago, fenced off with those storm fences. But we'll deal with it when we deal with it. Jeff, thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And now we'll come back to you for solar panel project update.
Yes, I'm back again. So switching gears, I'm here to give a brief update on the effort to install solar panels at the Deer Creek Racquet Club building. Well, as a reminder, the district had researched various options and chose to go with a lease option to install solar panels on a building, and Deer Creek Racquet Club was selected as the most ideal location because of its size, and even more appropriately because of the new roof that was recently installed on the building. Back in March, the district signed a letter of intent with Realgy Energy Services, and Realgy since then has further investigated the feasibility of installing panels on Deer Creek, which is all checking out, which is good. And the Park District has been working with Realgy on developing a lease agreement for this. So through this lease agreement, the district would purchase both the power from the solar panels and also the any excess energy that would be needed. We'd purchase all of that from Realgy, and the fee that we would pay for the power produced from the solar panels would not include ComEd's standard delivery fee, which is included with any power that runs through the lines, which would result in an estimated annual savings of approximately $4,000. So staff, we're hoping to have the final lease agreement this evening and review the draft agreement with the board, but unfortunately, we're still working with Realgy and Ansel Glink to finalize it. So now our hope is to be able to present it to the Finance Committee on November 5th and then bring it back to the board on November 10th. And the agreement needs to be approved by the end of this year. And if approved, the panels would likely be installed in early spring on the Racquet Club. I'm happy to answer any questions.
It's not just a financial saving, it's a real step in moving into a green agenda. Am I right, Jeff?
That's correct.
Are there any comments, Cal?
Does this help us transition us away from oil?
We'll go to, yes, I know you are.
You want me to answer that?
No fracking in Highland Park.
Terry, do you have a comment besides that?
This seems like a no-brainer to me.
All right, Lori? Or Brian Kaplan, whoever wants to unmute.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm all for it.
I'm for it. Thank you.
All right, Jeff, thank you.
I thank you very much.
All right, we'll now move to the Lakefront Master Plan update. Speaking of the issue that was brought up by Brian and Terry.
All right, can everyone hear me?
Yes,
All right, let me share my screen here. All right. All right, so can you see my presentation here?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
we don't see it in presentation mode, but we can see your slides.
All right, hold on.
There you go.
Is it okay if I don't do presentation mode? Because I want to be able to see my notes.
Okay.
Just fine.
Thank you. All right. So I'm here tonight to present on the Lakefront Master Plan update. And staff is recommending approval of the plan by the Park Board. The Lakefront Master Plan focuses on all 4 of our district lakefront properties and recommends objectives and strategies to improve these properties for the community. So in the next slides, I'm going to provide some background information on the plan and briefly describe the planning process and outline the principles, priorities, and objectives that are detailed in the plan. So for some context, in 2007, the Park District, in collaboration with citywide stakeholders, completed a lakefront master plan. Greenprint 2024, the comprehensive plan, identified the need to update the lakefront master plan. Lots of plans here. The plan update is founded in the 2007 plan and is updated based on current community priorities and conditions. We took a 4-step approach to the planning process. We started with gathering information to understand existing conditions. Next, we reached out to the community to understand priorities. And so we did this community outreach through a community-wide survey and one-on-one conversations. The survey was available online, and there was also paper surveys distributed, or rather available at our facilities. We had over 650 respondents to the survey. In addition to the survey, we spoke with hundreds of community members out at our parks. During the summer months, we hosted and advertised listening sessions at all 4 lakefront properties. We participated in 2 district events, including 4th of July, 4th Fest, and visited the rec center at Hidden Creek Aqua Park. And a listening session just is, staff went out to the parks and talked with the people that were there. So we met people out in the parks while they were using the parks. We then synthesized and aggregated the information to determine current community attitudes and interests at the lakefront and priority objectives. We met as a staff to understand feasibility and constraints at each site to then develop strategies to meet the objectives. Oops. There we go. All right, so the plan is rooted in six principles that were established in 2007, and they're here listed on the left side of the slide. I'll just run through them quickly. A unique lakefront experience, focus on connectivity, varied and appealing lakefront parks with increasing opportunities for recreation, education, and interpretation, a focus on environmental and public health conditions, a sustainable lakefront model, and also a focus on maintenance. The 4 priorities that rose to the top or were more apparent through the community efforts are here listed on the right side of the slide. And those are to preserve walking trails and views, access improvements to and around the lakefront properties, to provide accurate information about the lakefront properties, and to maintain infrastructure and recreational amenities. So these principles and priorities are what guide the objectives and strategies that are outlined in the plan document. The next few slides that I'm going to go through highlight these plan objectives. Each slide is going to highlight the priority objectives that is supported by, that all the objectives are supported by survey data. And here, let me click on the next one. So all these objectives are supported by survey data. So I'm going to start with district-wide, and then I'm going to move into each 4 of the properties. So the 4 district-wide objectives are to improve communication about lakefront properties, including location, access, and activities, to maintain existing lakefront infrastructure. And here I'm going to note, because we have, as you heard from Jeff tonight, we have started, or we are working on this, and I'll highlight that the Park District was awarded a grant from the Illinois Coastal Management Program to develop a beach management plan, which is ongoing. And that plan, the goal of that plan is to develop implementable strategic recommendations for beach maintenance and management in a dynamic and variable environment affected by climate change. Also consistent or following this objective, as you heard from Jeff today, in response to lake levels and sand movement, the Park District has implemented sand nourishment efforts at Rosewood Beach and continues to assess the future needs to protect Rosewood. The third one is to enhance the lake views for visitor enjoyment at Park District managed beaches and bluff parks. We heard that views were very important. And then 4th, to encourage and facilitate access to lakefront properties. So the next 4 slides are going to be focused on each of the 4 properties. And so on the right, you'll see a map that's going to highlight the strategies, the priority objectives, and these are supported, like I said, by data from our community engagement. And then we're also highlighting scheduled capital improvements that are related to the objectives. So here at Moraine Park and Beach, the 2 objectives that rose to the top, or the priority objectives, were to maintain and improve access and support amenities for both people and dogs, and to restore the natural character of the ravine outlet at the lake. And the 2 scheduled capital improvements that we have are to repair the ravine beach access path, and that's scheduled for planning in 2021 and 2022, and construction in 2022, and then ravine restoration in 2023. The objectives at Millard Park and Beach are, and again, these are the 4 that are priorities and supported by data from our survey, are to improve the breakwater at Millard, to restore the ravine outlet, to restore the historic garden, and access improvements to the upper park. At this time, we don't have any scheduled improvements at Millard Park. At Rosewood, the 3 priority objectives are to improve the ravine walkway, to renovate the playground at the upper park, and to create pathways and designate a designated overlook area from the upper park. And the 2 scheduled capital improvements that are related to these objectives are the ravine walkway improvements scheduled for 2021, and the playground renovation at the Upper Rosewood Park in 2024. And then Park Avenue. So before I go into this one, I want to give a little background and context that in 2007, the 2007 master plan had recommended a number of improvements here at Park Avenue, including a marina, a harbor. I mean, there was quite a few improvements here. I think also a swimming beach. And those all went to referendum, I believe, and were voted down. And so when we went back to the community as part of this update effort, we posed the question of larger, kind of more, not larger, but broader improvements. So improvements to non-motorized boaters, or improvements for, it was kind of like more broader baskets of improvements. And with that, we heard that there was an interest in improvements that for non-motorized boaters, to address the building and to enhance the pedestrian experience. Because those improvements weren't detailed, the objective here is to develop a site plan to explore and determine site priorities and direction. And then the second objective is to develop a Park Avenue working group. So we have the site plan in the capital budget recommended for 2021. And the Park Avenue working group has been established and is ongoing. So the map here doesn't really highlight anything, because the improvements and the scope of the improvements will be determined through the site planning effort. So before I go to questions, I just want to stress that this is a living document. These recommendations will guide future planning and support funding opportunities if they become available. This plan is going to be reviewed annually and adjusted to meet the current community priorities. Are there any questions?
Let's start with Commissioner Bernstein.
No, Molly, I think you did a wonderful job. I have no questions.
Thank you.
Terry?
No, I read in the packet, and it seems to accurately reflect what we had talked about a couple of years ago. I remember going down to Park Avenue Beach and meeting the folks that were down there and getting a lot of really great comments and things like that. So it's good that this is now seeing the light of day.
Great. Lori?
Yeah, no, nice job, Amalia. I don't have any questions.
Thanks.
Ryan Kaplan?
No questions today.
All right, and I appreciate and say thank you for the presentation. I have no questions. There was a request for a motion to approve the updated lakefront master plan. It's in a sense that we adopt it as our own, as the plan to move forward. Is there a motion to proceed in that way?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Good. Are there any questions? Hearing none, Roxanne, please call the roll.
Commissioner Bernstein,
Aye.
Commissioner Grossberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Flor Swicekoff,
Aye.
Vice President Kaplan,
Yes.
President Ruttenberg.
Yes, also, the motion is carried. Amalia, thank you, and we all look forward to working with you on the development.
Great. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing now.
Oh, I thought we'd continue.
Mhm.
All right, we go to new business. Terry, Parks Foundation update.
Yes. Give me a second to get out my notes here.
We caught him by surprise.
No, I downloaded them, but it's just,
Well, do you want Brian to go first and then we'll come back?
nope.
Okay,
Um,
tried.
So just a few things. First of all, there's an update from the fund that we're going to be using some of our funds for the Learn to Swim lessons this fall. We've been partnering up with the Park District Aquatic staff has been partnering up with Nuestro Center to set up 2 sessions with 8 participants of swimming. This is part of our FYI program that we have at the foundation. So we have the funds necessary to cover fall and winter sessions for these 8 swimmers. There was talk about governance, which is kind of boring. Bike the Park. So we had over 300 registrants and raised approximately $3,000 for our Bike the Parks, which was a few weeks ago, including $2,600 from sponsors and about $400 from participant donors. It was agreed that next time that we would have a suggested donation amount. I know when I registered, I just donated on behalf of it. But next time, it was very successful though. A lot of people were out checking out all of our different parks, and it was just a great event for us. We are in the middle, I don't know if you know it or not, but we are in the middle of our annual appeal. This is the appeal where we are hoping, because we did not get to do the Champions Banquet, to make up for some of that revenue. We really need an all hands on deck sort of thing to get this thing going, to have hundreds of our residents in Highland Park become friends of the park. And so right now we have raised only about $700 in the first 2 weeks, and we are hoping for more. So we want to reach out to our contacts, to the movers and shakers of town, to support the Park District. We know that this is not to the level of people that have food insecurity or people that don't have a place to live, but equity in being able to use facilities and to be able to go to camp and things like that is a very important issue. And we're hoping that all the board will get behind this. They're going to upgrade their marketing to try to get more word on it. But if you go to the website, I believe that there's a pop-up there that will direct people to our annual appeal campaign. And we're going to try to do more things to get more people on board. There's a Smile video that we've set up on social media, so you can follow that. We used $6,000 this year for the Judy Goldman golf, the Michael Goldman Golf Scholarship. And the Judy Goldman, his wife has agreed to replenish the total to $10,000 for 2021.
Very good.
Was very happy that the program has been positive for the foundation, for the Park District, and for the golf program. This last thing has to do with me. I'm actually helping organize once again a reimagined MLK Day, which will not be in person, but we're trying to, my goal since I started doing it was to try to get MLK Day to be more like MLK week or month, and to extend it beyond that one day. So with that in mind, we're coming up with different ideas to try to get people to perhaps Zoom what their organization is all about, and then have an event that they're doing. Let's say clean up the parks, or we're going to have a luggage suitcase pickup for shelters and things like that. So there's conversations ongoing about what that's going to look like, but it's not going to be in a physical space like we've expected the last 11 years. That's it.
Great. Terry, just out of curiosity, are we the Park District working with, I guess, we the foundation to provide some way of recognizing the significant donors? A plaque, a brick? Are we doing something, physical sense?
Yeah, there's a whole incentive package for the people that are you talking about for the annual appeal?
Yes, or for the golf scholarship. There's people who are obviously doing something.
Yeah, I will. Well, this one, okay, so it's this one woman whose husband has passed. So I will ask the Bob Bernstein, the president, to see if she's been recognized in some formal way. So that's a good question. In terms of the people that are donating, yes, there's that's been working. They've been working with Brian Romes on there's sort of incentives, actual incentives for people that they get if they go to a certain level with their spending. So Brian might have a better, or Liz might have a better understanding of what exactly that is, but there are incentives for people to donate.
All right, well, thank you.
You're
So
welcome.
I guess that takes us, unless people have questions, to Brian Rome's director's report, which can answer the question that Terry raised.
Yeah, well, regarding the foundation recognition, there are a series of ways that we do recognize donors. I actually don't have all that information in front of me. Unless, Liz, you have anything, we can certainly follow back up with the board on that and give more information at the next park board meeting. But I do have some other exciting news to share that I'd like to share with the community and with the board. Despite the fact that the weather's getting colder and it's getting darker earlier, believe it or not, Sunset Valley continues to have golfers. There was a golfer appreciation day last Friday and a hard course Chili Open on Saturday, and both were not delightful days from a weather standpoint, but we still had quite a few golfers out there. I was there this morning, and there were golfers out there. So we plan to stay open as long as we can to accommodate those who want to stay in the outdoors and recreate at the golf course. So if that means we're open through December, we will stay open as long as we can. The driving range is also still open. Typically, we move things indoors to the bubble, the dome over at the Highland Park Golf Learning Center, but we are going to keep that open as well through November, as long as we can, until the dog owners demand that they get to use it as a dog park, which we'll probably do in about December. So we're continuing to do as many outdoor activities as we can to accommodate the community needs. Unfortunately, last Friday, our Highland Park Hauntings event was canceled, mostly due to the severe rain that we had. We could not safely set up for that event. It does take all day to set up. So we are excited that we've rescheduled it for this Thursday. And it's going to be a really, I think, exciting event for people to drive through, stay in their cars safely, and experience a haunted trail over by Deer Creek. We also have a reverse trick-or-treating On Halloween, where Mike and Sully from Monsters Inc. will be visiting children's houses. So we're very excited about that. I think Mike and Sully are excited as well. We're doing some fun events in November. Going to teach anybody who wants to know how to master the ultimate Thanksgiving dinner in a safe way, from learning how to cook the turkey and entertain your guests. We have a little event going on Friday, November 13th. You can register for that. Also want to mention that we have a lot of activities at Heller Nature Center going on a weekly basis, and also some events even at the preserve of Highland Park. So please check out our website. Speaking of the preserve, we are working with Team Real to begin construction. There will be parts of the preserve blocked off to the community, but we are keeping some of the trails open so people can continue to exercise and walk on those trails during construction. We have information on our website if anybody is interested in, and we will also have some materials out at the park so you could see what is actually open for walking. Other than that, we will give a report at the November meeting, an update on the preserve, as well as our planning for Sunset Woods playground renovation, replacement of the playground pieces. And that's all I have, unless there's any questions from the board.
Questions or comments from the board? Anybody have a question or comment? Seeing a lot of not shaking heads. I would like to go into closed session. Is there a motion to go into closed session pursuant to the following section of the Open Meetings Act? Section 2C5, the purchase or lease of real estate. Is there such a motion?
I move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, Roxanne, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Bernstein,
Aye.
Commissioner Grossberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Flor-Swicekoff,
Aye.
Vice President Kaplan,
Yes.
President Ruttenberg.
Yes. Our meeting is adjourned in closed session